Well, my good people, here we are again. You are listening to the third episode of this little obscure podcast project of mine. I don't know how you did it, but here you are. I salute you. You are tough. You are resilient. You are obviously unstoppable and impossible to shake off. Boredom means nothing to you. Congratulations, dear listener. You are hard as nails. For all of you who are listening to my mumbo jumbo and hogwash, welcome to another episode of Film Magistery. Okay, I think it is a high time for taking a subject that is very close to some recent political events in the United States of America. Yes, you guessed it right. The 2016 presidential elections. For those who just woke up or are suffering from some kind of Alzheimer, America chose their celebrity and billionaire, Donald Trump, as the next president, and thus discarded Hillary Clinton. Although technically Clinton got more popular votes, apparently a couple of millions more, Donald Trump won most of the electoral votes. Personally, I'm not a fan of indirect elections, but who cares? That is how the United States presidential elections work. Nevertheless, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about politics and film. Why, you might ask? Well, because film is a medium that often reflects the current state of a society. But did you know that Donald Trump, being a celebrity, appeared several times on film? He's in an obscure film called The Ghost Can't Do It with Bo Derek and Anthony Quinn. You can see him in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Little Rascals, Eddie, 54, Zoolander, and so on. Hollywood always loved their billionaire celebrities. Now, there are hundreds of films with the political theme or agenda, and there are also many films that deal with the United States and its presidential elections. However, I'm not going to pick up and talk about that kind of films, but close enough. But before I reveal which film I will delve deeper into, let me mention a few films that people usually reference to as films with a political theme. There's of course Barry Levinson's Wag the Dog from 1997, in which a spin doctor and a producer from Hollywood are basically manufacturing a fictional war in a small southern European country in order to hide a presidential sex scandal. If you're more than 30 years old, you will instantly know which US president this film nods to. Let's just say his name rhymes with Hillary Clinton's name. Another example of a political film could be Alexander Payne's Election. The film is a satirical comedy that deals with a high school election. A popular student, played by Reese Witherspoon, is running for student body president, and she has no opposition. A history teacher, played by Matthew Broderick, is not fond of this not very democratic condition, so he persuades another student to run against her. Many called Election to be a satirical comedy and a metaphor for how American politics work. Actually, I read somewhere that Election is Barack Obama's favorite political film. According to Alexander Payne, Obama told him twice that Election is his favorite political film. So, if the film is more than good enough for Obama, it might be okay for you and me too, right? I have recently watched Michael Ritchie's The Candidate from 1972, and it is also a very good representative of political films. Billy McKay, played by Robert Redford, is an honest but very inexperienced candidate for the US Senate from California. He doesn't believe much in his victory, so he decides to play cards differently and unconventionally, which is clearly against the rules of the American political establishment. The ending is somewhat mystifying but scary and still relevant nonetheless, even after more than 40 years have gone since The Candidate have a premiere. Other examples of political films that people could watch that has some resemblance of the US elections or how the political system works in America are Bulworth, a comedy from 98 with Warren Beatty and Halle Berry, Primary Colors from 98 with John Travolta and Emma Thompson, Man of the Year from 2006 with Robin Williams and Laura Linney. And finally, The Ides of March, a drama from 2011 with George Clooney, Ryan Gosling and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Now we know which films we could watch if we wanted to get a little glimpse, even a fictional one, into the American political system, or if we wanted to escape just for a couple of hours from the cruel reality of the American politics. However, for this session I chose a somewhat different approach. The film I will discuss in this episode is not that known to a broader public. I admit it was under my own cinephile radar until recently. Anyway, I hope I can contribute just a little to spread knowledge about this little gem I'll talk about in a second. Not because it is technically a great film, because it is not, but because it deals with a very important and serious subject, which is politics and how the political establishment can easily manipulate with the masses. The film in question is Bob Roberts from 1992, and it is actually Tim Robbins' debut as a film director. We all know Tim Robbins is a wonderful actor, whom we've seen in many very good films like Jacob's Ladder, The Player, The Shawshank Redemption, Shortcuts, The Hudsucker Proxy, Arlington Road and High Fidelity. But I was really impressed with his directorial debut, Bob Roberts. He was only 34 years old when he made this film that deals with quite serious theme, although the film's contours are pretty satirical and humorous. That is quite impressive, I must say. So what is Bob Roberts about? Here's a little description. Bob Roberts is a self-made millionaire. He's a right-wing folk singer who is candidate for the US Senate. He stands for greed, every man for himself, and hardcore conservatism. But he's first and foremost an opportunist, who is only concerned for his own interest and profit. His political opponent is an old liberal senator, Brickley Paste, played by Gore Vidal. Although Paste has a really humane opinion and is somewhat likable character, he's not a popular politician. The problem lies with the voters, who seem to only be interested in following the celebrity that is sinister, manipulative and self-absorbed asshole. Welcome to the age of blind following and self and perpetual fame hunting. There are many very interesting scenes in the film that deserve to be mentioned. When Bob Roberts is a guest on a TV show, we learn that the female host is not very fond of Bob nor his politics.
You have just said that our chief executives are immoral criminals. I take offense at that deeply. I'm an American that believes intensely in morality, and I believe in the sanctity of the office of the presidency. I trust that the American public does not share your cynical anti-American views and will cast their votes accordingly with pride and conviction.
Thank you, Kelly and Bob Roberts, for that thought-provoking dialogue.
Because it means you want Americans to cast their votes based on hatred and ignorance.
She is the sound and rational voice of the people. She is an advocate for objectivity and facts, and attacks Roberts for appealing to ignorance and hatred. But unfortunately, the TV host seems to be a minority, because everywhere Bob Roberts goes, he's treated as a first-class celebrity. This is underlined by his numerous performances as a folk singer, singing political, right-wing songs in front of the ecstatic, cheering audience. The TV host gives a great description of this new kind of politician who is doing everything to promote his own agenda and interests.
Bob Roberts is yet another of that faction that lives to destroy whatever good came out of the 60s. To rewrite the history of that important period. A period where the American people actually were informed and aware and realized that they had a voice. They demanded that a war end. Bob Roberts is Nixon, only he's shrewder. More complicated, this Bob Roberts. Now here is a man who has adopted the persona and mindset of the free-thinking rebel and turned it on itself. The rebel conservative. That is deviant brilliance. What a Machiavellian poser.
We see Roberts sing one of his songs, which perfectly depict what is his political agenda. Could it be more clear that he is only interested in his own profit, individual interests, and can we hear racial tones in his songs? Does he want his land only for the white people? Maybe not, but what about Indians, Native Americans? This land was obviously not made for them when Europeans arrived. Roberts' political opponent, the Senator Paste, has actually quite a precise description of how American foreign policy often work. He talks of the enemy of the day and how he and his country gets the predicate of being a villain who needs to be stopped.
Well, Mr. Bob Roberts suggested that he knew which way I was leaning on the question of war in the Middle East, and I'm totally opposed to it. So it's the enemy of the month club again. Saddam Hussein, I believe, is the most evil man, what did the president say, since Adolf Hitler. Before that, there was Noriega. He was the most evil man since Fu Manchu. And there was Gaddafi, and then there's Castro. And these figures are thrown out through the media and made into great monsters. Why? Because we must justify the military budget. In order to do that, you must have enemies. So we blow up these local thugs into these huge Hitler-like figures and pretend it's World War II all over again.
Bob Roberts is also accused of being corrupt and apparently involved in illegal arm deals, but it doesn't lead to a sentence. He's also accused of an independent journalist, Bugs Raplin, played by Giancarlo Esposito, but he gets dealt with at the end of the film, which shall not be revealed here. At the very end of the film, we hear a young man say about Bob Roberts, "He believes in America, believes in making money, being rich." How to understand this almost nonsensical sentence? Is the people, all those who voted for an egoistic opportunist, naive and ignorant of how the politics, media and the world operate? How can someone praise an individual for wanting to make money and be rich when it doesn't mean, not for a second, that the individual will also make you rich? Bob Roberts is a film with several issues that do not work all that great. The first one is too many subjects. There is an investigation of arms deals. There is an obscure and not trustworthy journalist who opposes Bob Roberts. That part is really distracting. I wish the film focused more in depth with Roberts' senatorial campaign. In other words, the film wants too many things at the same time. This is understandable. Tim Robbins had a lot of things on his mind and he wanted to channelize it all together into a single film. But the main point gets a little washed out among many sidetracking themes in the film. However, Bob Roberts has a great deal of relevance today, just several weeks after the American presidential elections. Does the next US President Donald Trump bear any resemblance with Tim Robbins Bob Roberts? Well, Trump is not a folk singer, but sure, he is a celebrity, an entertainer who makes a lot of bombastic and sensational promises for a better American future. It is not a coincidence that he reuses Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again." Donald Trump, that is. Donald Trump seems to care mostly about himself and his businesses. He promised to build a wall between Mexico and the United States of America. He promised to stop illegal immigration and expel a lot of Muslim immigrants out of the country. He talked condescendingly about women. He mocked the Latino population and so on and so on. It seemed as if Donald Trump did all the necessary steps to not get elected. And yet America chose him over the experienced and eloquent but not very popular Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton. Did American voters acted as the young man in Bob Roberts and elected Donald Trump in hopes of getting them jobs and brighter future? Most likely. But it is hard to get rid of the notion that they chose Donald Trump only because they didn't like the other opponent or that they had presumptions of how Clinton was a part of the corrupted political establishment. It is fair not to choose one candidate for whatever reason, but to choose a candidate that is very rabiate and seemingly unreasonable on many political topics seems very unfortunate. Could it be that the American presidential elections is yet another of recent events that show us that we actually live in a post-factual society, a society in which the people act by feelings, the facts and truth don't matter, or at least are not more important than fiction, lies and entertainment? Bob Roberts won the American people with his bright smile and patriotic folk songs. Donald Trump won on his sensational, populistic and severe political moves that only show how he is doing everything to do what he cherishes the most, being a celebrity in one form or another. After being a billionaire, having several young wives, entrepreneur, a conservative hardliner, he finally gets to be an American president. Seriously, who could predict that only a few years ago? We will see if his ego will allow him to not pursue even more crazy and unrealistic goals in his life, who apparently are not that unrealistic in the world of today. What is frightening me is how voters are always depicted in political films as brainless mass who make wrong moves and choose seemingly wrong people in power. That happened not only once in the politics of the real life. We'll probably see very soon how great move it was made by the American people when electing Mr. Trump as their president. Who knows, he may even surprise us all. After all, isn't Obama a huge disappointment as an American president after all those airy, fluffy words without coverage and substance? Yes, we can be manipulated into anything over and over. Maybe it doesn't even matter who the people elect as the next president, since the politics is always politics that gets done no matter who is quote in charge, unquote. We should cherish above everything our personal freedom, try to be good human beings, getting along with every other person in the world. But the establishment wants something completely different. It is always about power and profit, and probably some other unknown, esoteric reasons. That is why we have wars, poverty and hunger in the world, even today in the 21st century, when we have means and knowledge how to eradicate most of our problems and challenges. But alas, it seems that tyranny of power is much better organized than freedom. Humankind has obviously still a lot to learn, mostly about itself. Bob Roberts is a clever film that wants to teach us to be more educated on the political matters and not accept everything that the politicians or the establishment present to us. It navigates beautifully between the realms of fiction and the politics of reality, and it has a lot on its heart. I agree with Roger Ebert when he called the film for being, quote, a satire about a whole mindset, about the anything-goes greed of the 1980s, when decent American values were replaced by the cold cynicism of management experts. Even with its clear technical flaws, Bob Roberts is a work that can teach us many things about our real world, the one outside the cinematic frame. That's why I believe in it as an important cinematic experience that people should definitely watch. And this concludes the third episode of Film Magistery. If you like listening to this little project, you can subscribe to the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, and follow us on our website, magistery.avdebeg.dk. That's magistery.avdibeg.dk. Until next time, good luck and good night, my friend.
Corporations and the big businesses that own the networks, major newspapers, they won't tell you the truth. It's not in their interest to tell you the truth. It's too dangerous to them. If you want the truth in this country, you have to seek it out. You must be vigilant, unrelenting, uncompromising. I will get Bob Roberts.